Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Sunday, November 19th, 2023, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Now Mind You podcast. Brr, 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 brr. This is episode 95 manga. I'm your host, TJ, and today I am solo. The fellas had scheduling conflicts. It's just what it is, but we should all be back next week. As far as what's going to be covered today, we got Hajime no Ippo, we got Sakamoto Days, we got Chainsaw Man, we got Jujutsu Kaisen. Not doing a topic of the week today because topics of the week make more sense to me, at least if it's at least two of us on this episode. But without wasting any further time, let me take you on to Hajime no Ippo, of course, by George Morikawa. This is chapter 1440, titled Why Not Just Tell Him? Where do we leave off? This isn't sparring anymore. This is now a grudge match. How would I summarize this? Two dudes just over there working their shit out in the ring. If I were to give this a review, okay. I understand what the purpose of this mini arc was, but it was still very unsatisfying to me reading this chapter. On the one hand, you don't want Mashiba to sustain any type of heavy injury leading up to his world title fight, but the series is called Hajime no Ippo, right? Not Hajime no Mashiba. So who really cares? Make your main character win. He's the protagonist. He's supposed to win all the time. It was hilarious, however, when he popped right back up after Mashiba was like super satisfied having dropped. Like, ain't no way he's getting up from that. And Ippo was like, all right, so make sure that when you imitate Rosario, right? You see, you want to make sure you sustain. But that being said, I think he should have dropped Mashiba once or twice just to remind him who originally defeated him at the end of the day. Also, Mashiba being unable to thank Ippo is getting kind of old too. I understand that's his character, the trauma, etc., but it's like you're a grown-ass man who is in a tight spot, and Ippo literally just saved your ass by providing you the perfect training partner. Stop being shy and thank him. Stop being like, oh, my trauma. No, just fucking thank him. Kumi, hilarious as always, especially when she got there in a flash, right, to help out Ippo and then profusely apologize for her brother's behavior. But then we got to talk about this, right? Itagaki must have accidentally went live on Insta while he was filming their sparring session. Personally, I think this might be a good plot twist or at least some good writing in the sense that this might advance the plot, the overall plot being like, when is Ippo going to get back in the ring? So I think this creates enough buzz to put some pressure on him to make that appearance in the ring again, or at least, start that thought process, put that seed, plant that seed, I should say. And what are the repercussions? Does Ricardo see this video? I 100% think all of Ippo's friends are going to see this and have questions. But that brings my review of Ippo to an end. I'm looking forward to the next chapter, but I'm not going to waste any time here, y'all. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Let me go over to Sakamoto Days, which is usually the longest segment other than Jujutsu Kaisen. Yuto Suzuki, this is chapter 144, titled Kaiju. Where do we leave off? Let's go ahead and hop on this elevator straight to hell. How'd I summarize this? Phone booth fight with a chainsaw. Let's get into this review. First and foremost, off the top, where's my anime announcement, Yuto Suzuki? I like how the title of the chapter was somewhat an inside joke based on how Mafuyu and Osaragi end up fighting in, that scaled down diorama of an American assassin town in the 1940s. It was like very, and Godzilla, I mean, if you go into Godzilla lore, like Godzilla is supposed to be a product of the outcome of World War II, right? Osaragi being 0 or 100 is nothing new for us readers. We already learned this when we got that deep dive on Shishiba during that Yotsumura mini arc. That being said, who else have we seen being described like this in a very similar fashion? It's like, you're either my friend or you're my foe, right? And I believe it was Kumanomi, one of the greater slur group that came out of Alkamar recently. Like, we saw her deal with Hio. Lost an arm in the process, but Hio's gone now, right? Someone who only thinks of you, like I said, like a friend or foe, only views things binarily. I wonder what it would look like if Kumanomi and Osaragi clash, and it's making me think, does each member of the Order have an exact counterpart inside of the X group, Slurs group? That clash could very well be epic. They both are freakishly strong, but apparently, according to Mafuyu, aka Young Face Mask, Osaragi isn't as strong as Gaku, who, as we have found out when we were introduced to Kumanomi, is objectively weaker than Kumanomi. and they both use ranged weapons. You know, railgun versus that Beyblade. That circular saw she wields like it was a Beyblade. Or at least like web shooters. Deadly web shooters. As I surmised last review, that mask really was a PED dispenser, so he was on his Bane shit. He told Osaragi, get over here, right? Stabbed her straight through her arm, and she didn't even flinch. Let's also talk about how, with her bare hand, she was ready to chop off Mafuyu's whole foot. Got the Air Jordan blade instead, right? The Jordan 8s with the heel blade. The action here was insane, but that's just what we've come to expect from Sakamoto Days. That being said, where did Osaragi put her saw, right? Where did she pull that from? Her dress is pretty billowy, but it ain't that billowy. And then to further emphasize her binary simplistic way of thinking, as Shin tries to appeal to her sense of reason, she concludes that the best solution would be to dismantle the bomb by dismantling Mafuyu. So that may have made things worse. Is this the end of the road for Mafuyu? I feel like we've gotten too much of him at this point for this story to even end here. For his story in particular to end here. I don't think he's doing all this to save his brother, as Matt suggested last review. Last week's flashback seemed more like it was a vignette of Natsuki telling a younger Mafuyu about the order. I could see Natsuki making a surprise appearance to save his brother, but I also wouldn't put it past Shin to intervene. Although, again, right now he's really acting like cannon fodder, like a nameless thug who just keeps getting inconvenience or making the situation worse because they're becoming more of a liability. I could also see a Toramaru appearance. Remember, she is on the field as well. They are partners at this point, and this is not out of the realm of possibility. Also, she too has a bomb implanted inside her, and if she dies, it goes off, right? We're not going to get a zone hop. That's not the Sakamoto Days way. I am, however, curious about Amane Yotsumura, Sakamoto's overall progress on the field, and how Kaji is doing. Is Kaji completely out of the game? Felt like it. Looking forward to the next one. Sakamoto Days rarely disappoints. I'm going to switch over to Chainsaw Man, Tatsuki Fujimoto. This was chapter 148. The title was, of course, Room 606 Sword. Where did we leave off last? What about that dirty looking motherfucker right there, right? Pretty sure he's a Chainsaw Man wannabe. Get him! Summarize this. It's Chainsaw Man, you guys. I don't know what to tell you at this point. Expect the unexpected. Review, Quan Chi is about to decimate this angry mob, or maybe not since they seem to be civilians, but wilder things have happened. So I wouldn't put it past Quan Chi just being like, you know what? We don't need them. If the octopus devil just got decimated, what does that mean for Yoshida? Why is he just frozen in place? Was that due to War Devil fear? I don't know. But Asa, Yoru, they look crazy right now with that arm missing and that sword that looks to be straight out of like Borderlands or something. Just that all types of elements going into that sword, right? And then the question remains about Yoru, right? Yoru now visibly feels, and we can visibly see how much the power's increased, right? She even takes note of the fact that they didn't even have to touch the apartment in order to convert it into a whole sword. And then we're now in a world that is currently filled with Chainsaw Man lookalikes and that has some crazy fear for the War Devil, right? Bet money, the leash is off. They're about to collide with Denji's crew. We'll see what goes down next chapter, but again, I would like the story to get to that next phase now that we know what is at stake and we have a better idea of what the end game, or at least end game scenario, is looking like. What with the appearance of the fourth sister, Death, or the foretold appearance, right? We have yet to see Death, but that's on the way, so let's get there, at least for me. Switching over to Jujutsu Kaisen. Geigakutami. This is chapter 242, titled Foolish Survivor Flying High. Where do we leave off? Takaba just apologized for not taking comedy seriously and promised to make Kenjaku laugh, which I feel like is his Super Saiyan 2 moment, right? How would I summarize this? Have you seen the movies Click or Bedazzled? Have you perhaps watched the show Sliders? That might be a deep cut for some folks. This chapter was all that with some Looney Tunes / Who Framed Roger Rabbit energy. Let me get into this review. First of all, you got me mixed up with somebody you done slept. No, I'm kidding. First of all, those first 3 pages were hilariously insane. Kenjaku basically summons his strongest Pokemon. He summons his strongest like Yu-Gi-Oh monster, right? The Exodia or Blue Eyes White Dragon. Only for Takaba to annihilate it with Truck-kun, who in the Isekai Fighting League is currently undefeated, right? This is basically the catalyst for the amount of insanity that ensues for the rest of this chapter. Right at the moment, we go from scene to scene at a rapid fire pace, and you literally, even while reading this, don't know who's going to show up as what and in what setting. There's a point where Takaba thought he was saving a black cat, only for it to be revealed that it was Kenjaku, who then looks back to see Takaba is also a cat. Like, insane. This is just like watching an episode of American Dad, if you're familiar, where Roger plays multiple characters in one episode. If you're a fan of the show, you know how insane those scenarios can get too, right? This is that. Not as insane as American Dad, but pretty fucking close. To me, it feels like, again, something else I called out earlier, Kenjaku has turned his brain off and is going with the flow. However, despite them looking like they're having the time of their lives, Kenjaku is taking real damage with every scene that unfolds. That rock, paper, scissors battle was a great example of that, right? What would a defeat look like? Would Kenjaku just be caught in an endless loop of Takaba's curse technique? Humpty Hump, for the time being, seems to be him. Well, it looks like we're gearing up for a final showdown now, with perhaps some type of nod to the Blues Brothers, them hopping on stage wearing the all-black suits. The chapter was wild. However, here's the thing. Remember, when reading Jujutsu Kaisen, it's very important to not have hope, which I know is a wild thing to say, but we have to understand, like, I still contend that this is a series where the bad guys could very well win, and I don't think Sukuna is the final boss. I think very much that it is Kenjaku, and he knows what he's trying to do, which is force an evolution in humanity, because he wants to merge. He just wants to see what it looks like when humanity and Tengen merge, right? Now, with that being said, what happens if he absorbs Takaba or decides to body hop into Takaba, right? That's a problem, especially since he seems to be aware of the inherent weakness of Takaba's technique, which is, it just comes down to his confidence, his self-confidence. But Takaba's curse technique is anything he imagines can be made real. That's insane. All right, I'm going to conclude it right there, y'all. In terms of my favorite chapter this week, I've been liking Martial Master Asumi. Kagurabachi has been pretty good, but I'm going to have to give this one over to Jujutsu Kaisen. It was insane. I really think that Gege Akutami is doing something that has yet to truly be done in manga. Like, this writing is kind of wild in a very good way. I've also been reading Kengan Asura, the manga that is, and I've been enjoying that. But right now, Jesus Christ. But my favorite chapter this week, for sure, Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm not going to do a topic of the week because, like I said at the top, it doesn't make sense if it's just one person. And plus, the topic we had lined up was something where we'd all have had done some homework beforehand. So I'm going to just wrap it right here for everybody. So thank you as always for listening. It's an honor to be able to do this every week, and I want to give a shout out to all our listeners. It's much appreciated. This has been episode 95 manga, right? So we are 5 episodes away from our 100th episode, so tune in for that. Where can you find the podcast? You can find us on all podcast distribution platforms at the Now Mind You Podcast. Literally just look up Now Mind You Podcast on any distribution platform, including YouTube. If you're looking for the podcast on any type of social media, it's actually at Now Mind You Pod. You can look us up, like search for Now Mind You Podcast, but if you want the handle, it's at Now Mind You Pod. That's NOWMINDYOUPOD. And of course, please hit the link in the bio. Check out that flow page. It contains all the information, our whereabouts, etc. Now, if you're looking for us on social media, us individual hosts, you can find me on Instagram at Tuss4Skate. That's TUSS__SKATE. You can find Matt on damn near everything because his branding remains strong at Matt Hambrick. That's MATTHAMBRIC. And of course, you can find Mr. Bryce himself on Instagram at Ashe Onsa. That's AXE_ONCA. And then Bryce is on her, baby. With that, y'all, stay blessed. We are right around the corner from the holidays. So if you celebrate Thanksgiving, have a good one. If you don't celebrate, but you got that day off, hey, enjoy your day off, y'all. Stay safe out there. Peace.